Hello, my name is Leo. Today we're going to talk about coplanar vectors. So first, what is vector? Vector is a geometric object which has its length, direction and orientation. It can be marked with a little letter of alphabet, for example a little V with an arrow above it, or with two big letters of alphabet similar as line segment, for example AB with an arrow above. Coplanar vectors are those vectors which lie in the same plane. Now, properties of vectors. First is length or magnitude, which is distance between starting and ending point of vector, for example AB in the vector AB. Direction is a straight line, vector line zone, and orientation, there can be two orientations of a vector lying on a straight line, left or right. So vector is also called oriented line segment. It has its head and tail. Head is part of vector where is arrow, and tail is the opposite part. Vectors are expressed via this kind of formula, and we have this example of vector AB, which is 3i plus 4j, and its length is 5. Length of a vector is calculated by this formula, which is a Pythagorean theorem actually. Special case is a null vector, which has zero length, no direction, and no orientation at all. Here we can see the example of null vector AA. Now, equal and opposite vectors. Equal vectors are those with the same length, direction and orientation, so AB is equal to CD, and opposite vectors are those with the same length and direction but opposite orientation, so AB is minus CD. Both equal and opposite vectors are collinear, meaning that they have same direction, so they lie at the parallel straight lines. Addition of vectors is a method of adding vectors one to the other, and its intent is to find a resultant vector which is sum of all components, or sum of all starting vectors. And we have here example of vector V, which is sum of A and B, calculated by this formula. Now some methods, so rules of vectors addition. We have head to tail and parallelogram method. So first is head to tail method, where we have two vectors, for example AB and CD, and their resultant is vector AD, which has its head in the head of the second vector, so in the head of CD, and its tail in the tail of first vector of AB. Now parallelogram method, again AB and CD vectors, which are now put as a neighboring sides of parallelogram, and now we construct a parallelogram, and a resultant vector is this red vector, which has its tail in tail of the starting vectors and its head in the opposite vertex of parallelogram. Now subtraction of vectors is actually a method similar to addition of vectors, because we actually add vector minus b to vector a, which is opposite vector of vector b. So we only change signs in vector b. And we can see on the picture this method. So here is that red resultant vector. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you've learned what are vectors. And hope you stay with us.